Hello and welcome. You're watching the F&O Show on Bloomberg Quint Live, India's first digital live streaming business news service. And I'm Navneet Saluja D'Souza.
Good morning. I'm Agam Akil, and here are the top headlines for this hour. Indian benchmark indices surged to new lifetime highs. Nifty bank futures witnessed a sharp increase in fresh long positions. And advance in the banking indices is led by State Bank of India, Punjab National Bank and Bank of Baroda, which sees a surge in October futures open interest. And HCL Technologies meets estimates in the second quarter. The management also sticks to its FY18 constant currency guidance. And GIC RE lists at a discount to its issue price at 912 per share.
All right, let's take a look at the markets. It's been a great start today after a much-needed recapitalization for the PSU banking space that has lifted the market sentiment. But both Nifty as well as Bank Nifty currently are trading off day's high. Remember, Nifty crossed the 10,300 mark in the opening session, so that's down almost 80 points from day's high. And similar is the case for the Bank Nifty, which is down almost 500 points from day's high. In fact, if you look at a couple of the Nifty strikes today, tomorrow being the expiry, now the base for the market seems to have shifted higher because 10,300 is the strike where majority of the open interest currently is. In today's session, specifically on the call side, we've seen addition coming in for 10,300 strike. That's added over 6 lakh shares. But also look at 10,300 put. That too has added about 10 lakh shares so far. What is that telling you? If you look at the premium on both these strikes, 10,300 call and put, it looks like that the expiry can happen in that range of almost 10,320 to about 10,250 on the downside, and 10,250 is the level, around that level where Nifty currently trades. In terms of Bank Nifty, do watch out for the all-time high levels despite of Bank Nifty crossing the 25,000 mark in today's trade. Remember, it has still not touched its all-time high levels, which we saw in the month of August. So I would be specifically watching out for that, and that is 25,198.8 on Bank Nifty. These are the all-time high levels there, and Bank Nifty seems to have come off day's high. Tomorrow being the expiry day, 25,000 is the support to watch out for Bank Nifty as well. That's where the maximum open interest addition has been seen on the call side, whereas on the put side for Bank Nifty strikes, we've seen addition coming in for 24,600 as well as the 24,700 strike. And talking about the rollovers for Bank Nifty, they currently stand at about 27%, and the rollovers did pick up yesterday. Let's see how they pan out today.
Well, Navneet, lots and lots to talk about the banking index, specifically the PSU banking index. But before we go that, let's also go across to the HCL Technology management. We've seen a steady quarter. It's largely in line with expectations, and more importantly, the guidance for FY18 has been maintained. Let's cut across to the management and see as to what they have to make of the numbers and the outlook.
Rates. And if you look from a margin performance perspective, we are well within our guided margin range of 19.5 to 20.5. If I adjust it for the basis on which the margin guidance was given, which was 65.50 to $1, our margin this quarter has been at 19.7, and if I adjusted the currency, it will be at like 20%. So we are right in the middle of the margin guidance range, and we believe we will stay within that range. If you look at our net income margin came to be better than what it was in the same period last year. It's at 17.6%. Our earnings per share have gone up by 10% year on year. So that's a very significant sort of a achievement. If you look at our, as Vijay explained, we have done a lot of IP-led deals and other inorganic activity. And one of the sort of basically is, are you getting the enough return out of that investment? So if you look, it didn't have any impact on the margins. It didn't have any impact on the return on the capital employed. Our return on capital employed has stayed at 23% and has rather sort of maybe marginally improved. So we continue to do very well there. Our hedging program, we have a hedge book of about 1.6 billion, has done extremely well. I mean, there was a hedging gain of $22 million. Whatever EBIT percentage numbers I am giving you are excluding that gain which came. If I include those gains, then the EBIT margin will significantly move up. So we had done the buyback program, which led to some sort of a decline in the other income, the treasury income. There's a marginal sort of a impact of that this quarter, but in spite of that, our net income margin has stayed ahead. Our revenue per employee has continued to be going up. It's about $64,500, so which is at the higher end so far as the IT industry out of India is concerned. So, all the factors point to a very good picture. I'll give it to Rahul now. Thank you.
Thanks, Anil. I'll talk about the financial services business. So financial services.
All right, so well, that was the management of HCL Technologies. Anil Chanana, the CFO, who spoke to us about maintaining their EBITDA margins as well as the outlook going forward, considering the rupee rate that you're working with is 65.5 going ahead. But moving on, let's of course address the public sector banking space. That is where the big surge is coming from. Those are the stocks for the day to watch out for. So let's pull up, your increase in open interest, because the top 5 or 6 companies in that list will belong to them. So you will have the likes of PNB, SBI, Canara Bank, Bank of Baroda. All 4 or 5 stocks of those are looking at well over 14% in accumulation towards fresh longs for now. PNB, of course, looking at a surge of 30% in its stock and 23% increase in its open interest. Clearly fresh longs. And do remember, we're looking at expiry tomorrow. So this is as far as the October futures go. So there is some more strength likely as far as PNB and SBI go. In terms of stocks which are looking at unwinding, well, this is where we'll see a little more momentum, considering, again, once again, we are looking at expiry. We got Cholamandalam, Axis Bank surprisingly looking at considerable unwinding there, NIT Technologies and Shrey Infra also looking at about 4% decline in open interest. But again, Navneet, it's going to be all about the public sector banks. We have seen a substantial jump in the likes of SBI, PNB, Canara Bank, even the relatively smaller ones like Bank of India have seen a substantial surge, and not only in the stock price but also in their open interest. So fresh longs all around.
You know what? Interestingly, if you look at the top F&O gainers in terms of securities, all of them are the PSU banking counters. Yeah. So clearly, this is the day for them. But I want to highlight HDFC Bank. That's your heavyweight on Nifty, about 10% weightage. Right. Even on Bank Nifty, about 30 to 35% weightage. Right. And I was just talking about Bank Nifty still not, touched its all-time high levels. HDFC Bank is the one which is trading pretty weak. And that's the one which is capping the moves on the Bank Nifty today. That's down almost 3%. So keep an eye on that counter. The bank also declared steady set of numbers yesterday, but looks like there could be some sort of shifting in terms of positioning from private to PSU banking space. Well, on that note, let's welcome our F&O experts for the day. Hemant Tukral, Head Derivative Desk at Aditya Birla Money, and also joining us on the show is Gaurav Bisa of LKP Securities. Good morning to both of you, gentlemen. Thanks a lot for joining us today on Bloomberg Quinn. Hemant, let me come to you. Well, today being the day for the PSU banking space, and let's not forget from the private banking space, it's only ICICI Bank which has seen steady gains coming about. How would you approach the Bank Nifty is my question to you, considering the expiry is tomorrow.
See, good morning. First of all, I think it's very clearly that without private banks you can't cross 25,000, so that's for sure. And private banks are seeing a considerable beating. So whether it's Kotak or IndusInd Bank, I think they all are seeing some profit booking coming in. So, but I still feel that 24,500 will act as a support. So I feel that if it is coming down, so it gives you a buying opportunity on dips because it will be volatile. So better to participate through calls. So whether you buy a 24,700 call, which is quoting around 100, 105 now. So I think that's a better way to participate, because you may, if it doesn't goes below 24,600, 24,550, I think one more surge towards 24,800, 850 cannot be ruled out. But now one thing is for sure, that this expiry 25,000 will be tough to cross unless until there's some magic and you see all the private banks starts to move up, which I will be actually surprised. So the expiry should be below 25. But I don't see it breaching 24,550, 24,600.
Good morning to you, Gaurav, as well. To what extent are you pegging the gains in the Nifty Bank to the gains in the Nifty? And how would you dissect the gains in both these indices going forward?
Good morning. Well, Nifty has been Bank Nifty has been underperforming. If you look at the overall picture for last 2 months or so, we have seen that Bank Nifty has not been the biggest contributor in the Nifty's upside, and that is the reason why even Nifty has not been doing that well in last 2 months. It's been struggling at every levels. Today we have seen a breakout about 24,500, 24,450 kind of levels. If these levels sustain, then I agree with him that we might be heading towards 25,100, 25,200 again. Having said that, one needs to be a little bit careful for the reason that we have seen good amount of unwinding happening. Today, PSU banks are up, and if you look at the overall weightage of PSU banks in Nifty or the Bank Nifty, it is not exceptionally high. So you need to have something like ICICI Bank performing, or Kotak for that matter, Axis or SDFC. So SDFC Bank and ICICI Bank, if they are performing, we will see a fresh upside ahead. They have been stable today. So as long as we are about 24,500, I would be biased on a positive side. We may retest levels of 25,000, but I would still wait for a dip. I would not buy here.
All right, let's also shift focus to Options Corner now, where our experts will give their top option strategy for the day. Let me go across to Gaurav first. Gaurav, you have a target of about 10,320 on Nifty, and if I look at the 10,300 call, the premium there is also about 20 rupees, which is telling you the call writers on that strike will be safe until Nifty reaches the level of 10,320. Give us your rationale behind it.
Well, there have been decent long portion that we've seen in last few trading sessions. 10,200 call option has seen a lot of writing. So what we are seeing today was more of a delta hedging sort of, that people who have sold 10,200 call option, they did not get a chance to cover that portion. Nifty opened with the gap, and what generally people do, either they book out their positions or they square off their positions, or what they do is that they manage the delta by taking a position Nifty. So we have seen that since the additions, the OI in 10,200 is not seeing significant unwinding. Some sort of we can see, but not aggressive unwinding has been seen. So there's a possibility that delta hedging has been seen, and that is the reason we have seen at higher levels some profit booking has been seen. On the other hand, 10,200 has been a very strong resistance. As long as we are 10,200 and above, there's a possibility we may see a bounce back coming in. So any dip towards 10,220 would be a lucrative buy. Stop loss of 30-40 points. On the upside, we can revisit the high levels that we saw today, 10,300 to 10,320.
And Hemant, you remain undeterred by whatever resistance private banks may have to offer?
See, actually, it's a very interesting thing. I'm just watching the put writer positions in the private banks, and all of the private banks have come closer to those levels. Like Yes Bank actually surprised me by pushing below 320 for 2 seconds, and it's pushed back up. IndusInd Bank 1600 put writers have been holding from last 4 months. So that will be a real test. Kotak 1000 put and 1020 put has a lot of put writers still holding on the positions. So I am actually against the contrary, I am expecting some pullback from the private banks, if not today, at least tomorrow. So I would be actually buying 24,700 call as I suggested, though it has come down sharply. It's now 92, 93 rupees. I had recommended around 110. So, but I am not changing the stop loss. That remains at 70, 75 band, because that would actually only come if you breach below 24,550. Then it obviously means that this whole rally of Bank Nifty is finished, and the target remains 170, which will be colliding what I am expecting before expiry, it to touch 24,850 once.
All right, so those are a couple of the F&O option strategies, pardon me. In fact, the Nifty PSU banking index has seen good gains, but that's also off day's high, and the private banking index is just about trading flattish in today's trade because of HDFC Bank, which is the biggest heavyweight there with almost 30 to 35% weightage. So that's just about trading flat. But let's move on and try and address our viewer queries today. And let me take first the live query, which has come in from Mohan Ram. He sent us this message on YouTube. Mohan wants a view on Kaveri Seeds. If we can just pull up the stock price of Kaveri Seeds and see where that is trading. Well, it's just trading at levels of 568 thereabouts, and nothing much to see in terms of today's session. Gaurav, let me come to you. Would you advise taking any trade here?
I would advise taking a trade. We had given a recommendation yesterday also around these levels. So my the lucrative levels are seen near 571, 572. 570 call option had a good concentration is trading near about those levels. So give it a rupee or two. If it trades above 570, we can see some participation coming towards 585, 590. So buy above 571, 572. Have a stop loss of 564 on the upside. 585, 590 can be seen.
All right, a stop loss of 564 with an upside in Kaveri Seed Company. But moving on, we're going to address some of the viewer queries who have written to us from earlier. And this one, first one is from Shipra Khanna, and she wants to know whether or not it is advisable to short Havells at current levels. Do remember, Havells India has seen a lot of weakness yesterday. In fact, the stock was down 7%. We had seen a substantial increase in OI as well in the October futures. Hemant, if I were to come to you on this one, can she short Havells India even at these levels?
See, first of all, I think yesterday it would have been a very excellent trade because the way it breached 525. Actually, I would wait for 486, 487 to get breached if I have to do further selling at current levels, because I have a feeling that 485 has been a very strong bottom for Havells. So I would not recommend her to short at current levels. But yes, on every rise she can short now, because now unless until Havells crosses 505 back, it remains weak. So if it goes back to say 495, 500, I would actually sell with a stop loss of 505, expecting it to touch 485. Or the other way around is she can wait for 485 to get breached and then sell, because then the next target can be 460. So I would not recommend her to go short between 485 to 489 right now.
All right, that's the view coming in on Havells. The counter was down 7% and huge amount of short buildup was also seen in yesterday's trade. Let me just take one more live query that's come from Ankit Upadhyay. He's written to us on Facebook. He's saying on back of the Bharatmala project being announced yesterday, he wants to know how are GMR Infra and GVK Power shares placed. Well, Ankit, we'll only be able to get you view on GMR Infra since that's the one which is in the derivative space, and we're only going to give you a technical view from our experts here. Gaurav, GMR Infra on the charts, do you see any position can be taken?
Play with the option side. 1830 is the immediate resistance level. We have seen around those levels some sort of unwinding happening, and it again slips towards 16.5, 1660. So it's been trading in a range. Wait for some time, let it sustain 18.5, 1830 sort of. Then one can buy next series 20 strike call option. That can be the safer bet, or even cash can be bought above 1850 kind of levels.
All right, so well, that's the call on GMR Infra, but we'll move on, take trading strategies from our experts for today and perhaps over the next few sessions. Hemant, I'm going to come to you. What are you advising your clients and our viewers for today?
See, actually, I'm advising two stocks and none of them are banks, because I feel that banking will be volatile, so better to go with only bank nifty calls. I have selected two stocks purely on basis of the rollovers and how the OI is adding up. So Berger Paints looks a good stock to me. I think the stock has already touched a new 52-week high. This is happening on the back of good open interest additions. So I would keep a stop loss of 275 and a target of 295. Second is an oil and gas major, GAIL. I think the stock interestingly has rebounded back from a very strong now new support 440, 445 band. So that means it's making a higher top, higher bottom pattern. Again, open interest adding on the long side, so I'll keep a stop loss of 445 and a target of 458.
All right, and banking stocks, they seem to be the flavor of the day, but none of our experts, Agam, have given a call on them. So probably let's see if it's just irrational exuberance, if one has to say, on the PSU banking stock prices today. We'll have to wait and watch out. Gaurav, your two strategies, you've got one long and one short for the day.
Well, yes, on the long side, I would recommend buying Wockhardt Pharma. We have seen the stock has been trading in a range, some sort of long position has seen getting built. There's no aggressive buying that we have seen, but 640, 650 is zone from when a lot of times short positions have been seen getting built, and it goes towards levels of 615, 620. So if it's sustains 640, 645, I expect good amount of short covering to come in the name, and it can head towards 675, 680 with relative ease. With the stop loss of 625, one can buy Wockhardt Pharma. On the other hand, Repco Home, we have seen unwinding happening. There's a significant resistance happening at 655, 660 level. From there, we have seen some sort of unwinding. Today, there have been a 2 or 3% addition in OI. That means some short positions have seen getting built. One can have a stop of 638 play for 610 kind of targets in next day or two.
Okay, before we wrap, there's just one more live query that we are getting from Facebook. This one comes from Salman Khan, and he wants to get a view on TVS Motors, that is the 700 call for November, that is. Hemant, if I can come to you on this one, what is your view on TVS Motor Company and specifically the 700 November call?
See, I think his choice is absolutely right. I still don't feel that TVS is in a corrective mode. I still feel 680, 685 band holds. The stock has potential to touch 710. What he has done good, he has bought for November because current month 700 call writers are very active. So I don't expect 700 to be pierced in this series. But yes, next series, he has to maintain a stop loss of 683. I will put it very precisely on the spot levels. If it continues to hold, then the next series it may see 710 coming. That will give him a good return on the investment that is made for 700 call November.
All right, so he seems to have taken the right call. Thanks very much, both of you, Hemant as well as Gaurav, for joining us today on the show and giving us your views in the F&O market and also helping our viewers with regard to their queries. While shifting focus to earnings now, GHCL reported an operationally weak quarter with profits falling almost 41% to 53 crores and the margins too contracted by nearly 800 basis points for the September quarter. To discuss the numbers in detail, Mr. Jalan, MD of GHCL, joins us on the show now. Mr. Jalan, thanks a lot for joining us today on Bloomberg Quinn. My first question to you is, what's your overall outlook in terms of volume for both your soda ash business as well as the textile through FY18?
If you look at last 6 months, we have been able to grow our volume into the soda ash business, and overall revenue has grown by around 20%. However, in the textile business, the revenue has been dropped by around 8%. In the going forward next 2 quarters, we see that chemical business, the revenue growth will continue. However, there is a headwind into the textile business, and therefore there will be a drop into the revenue of textile business. So outlook wise, year as a whole, 2018, 17-18, we see a healthy growth into the chemical business revenue, but drop into the textile business. Overall, in this quarter, Q2 of 2018, our revenue growth is around 8%. And going forward, we believe the similar kind of a number we will be able to maintain in this revenue.
But Mr. Jalan, if you're looking at an 800 basis points contraction when it comes to margins, what factors do you attribute to this weakness, and can we expect these margin levels to continue for the rest of this financial year?
If you look at our overall margin, yes, surely it has dropped, and that is primarily because of our textile business. We have been able to maintain the similar kind of a EBITDA margin onto our chemical business, which we have achieved in the Q1 18 of this year. And in the textile business, there is a drop into the margin, and the drop in the textile business margin is primarily because of the headwind, like your headwind or the demand situation into the US market, which is our prime market. Cost has gone up, and there is a significant amount of oversupply situation in this industry, and that has led to the price reduction as well. All put together, there is a drop into the margin. Whereas in the chemical business, we see a very clear bullishness into that market. In spite of the raw material prices going up approximately around 4 to 5%, still we have been able to maintain the margin as we have achieved into the Q1 18. So and going forward also, we see the similar kind of a healthy margin of 31% we will be able to maintain into the chemical business.
All right, so looking to maintain 31% margin in the chemicals business. Thanks a lot, Mr. Jalan, for joining us and giving us a view on how the September quarter panned out for the company, but the stock's not done too much today, Agam. Well, with that, we'll wrap it up here on this edition of the F&O Show. Thanks a lot for watching, but stay tuned to Bloomberg Quint Live.
And of course, don't forget to tune in.